Welcome to this special edition of Cronkite News. I'm Matt Clay. Cronkite News works with our sports bureaus in Phoenix and Los Angeles to cover news beyond the teams and scores. Here are some of our top stories from Cronkite Sports so far this year.
Phoenix Rising FC is looking to take the future generation of soccer to the next level here in Arizona. Cronkite News reporter Grayson Choi explains how kids are learning firsthand from one of the team's newest players.
According to the Arizona Youth Soccer Association, over the past 4 years, participation in youth soccer leagues has doubled. Phoenix Rising is helping young soccer players by launching both the Rise to Play and Rise to Pro camp. Last week's session featured Phoenix Rising player Billy Forbes, who added depth to the professional coaching staff at camp. Collectively, Rise to Pro aims for one common goal for the kids.
We hope they get better, we hope they enjoy it. I mean, it's key for us that there's a clear pathway so that they improve. So we break down activities into finite skills, but we hope they have a great time and come back again.
I think this camp is lots of fun. It's a cool experience, and it brings a lot of kids out on the field, showing everyone how it is, and just lots of fun.
Professional soccer player Billy Forbes is Phoenix Rising's newest forward. He's already making a difference with the team as he helps out with camps and is hoping to make an impact on young soccer players.
I mean, it means a big deal for me to be here as a player. But also it means a lot for me to help the young kids grow as a player and learn a little bit about the game of soccer.
Forbes wants to help build confidence in the kids he coaches at camp. He believes confidence is essential to have when on the path to pro.
He's a true ambassador, and he's only been with Phoenix Rising for a short time. But he's very engaging with the kids, and he's a great asset.
Forbes hopes to grow the game of soccer for the youth and build on their character. In Tempe, Grayson Choi, Cronkite News.
Rising Rise to Play and Rise to Pro camps run through March, and overnight camps start this summer.
You see it in movies and TV shows, but at Miracle Fitness, the medieval martial art of sword fighting is mounting a comeback.
Hey, I go to this park and this dude teaches me sword fighting. Do you want to do that? And he's like, yeah.
Sword fighting has been around for centuries, but Richard Marsden's love for the sport started 20 years ago.
But I think, all of us are fascinated by sword fighting. It's in our films, right? We see it through Star Wars, we see it through Game of Thrones, we see it in The Three Musketeers, and there's sort of a romance to it, and so people want to learn that.
Marsden does it all. He's the co-founder of the Phoenix Society of Historical Swordsmanship, a history teacher at Peoria High School, and a writer and publisher of 3 books about swords and different styles of fighting. And the reason that he's written all these books...
No one else has. I have a lot of information in my head. I want to be able to pass it on to others. My ultimate goal is to take these dead martial arts and bring them back to life again.
The Phoenix Society of Historical Swordsmanship used to meet in a park, but has since grown to include classes with as many as 30 students meeting 3 times a week at Miracle Fitness. 24-year-old Randy Reyes has been training with Marsden for almost 10 years.
You all right?
I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a cult, because I see all these guys dressed in black and they're swinging swords at each other. I'm like, what are you introducing me to? I don't understand. But then once I started talking with Richard and everything, and just learning about the kind of the history behind it and just like what the club was about, that interested me.
One of the club's favorite swords to use is the longsword, which dates all the way back to the 1200s.
When we spar one another, we are not actually trying to kill one another, but we are trying to make our lethal techniques as close as possible work.
But even with the proper coaching, you might leave with a couple of battle wounds. I did not end up winning the fight, but the Phoenix Society of Historical Swordsmanship is part of the Historical European Martial Arts Alliance with 229 locations found across the United States and 4 in the state of Arizona.
There have been 2 sport athletes across the athletics landscape for decades. Those origins began at the high school level, and Phoenix is home to a unique trio of basketball players who wear multiple hats in the sports world. Noah Friedman has the story on these up-and-coming athletes.
Pinnacle High School's boys basketball team is ranked number 5 in the state with the most unlikely cast of characters. One of the nation's top quarterbacks, a stud pitcher on his way to USC, and a 16-year-old NBA veteran son who Sports Illustrated already called a basketball prodigy.
A couple of these kids could be special, and we could be watching them on Saturday afternoons or at night or Sunday afternoons.
The quarterback, Spencer Rattler, committed to play football at Oklahoma. Calvin Shapira throws fastballs in excess of 90 miles an hour. And the basketball star, Nico Mannion, well, a dunk he threw down in 8th grade has been viewed more than 800,000 times on Vine.
Us three are pretty close, and we're close enough to talk about that kind of stuff, so we help each other out more off the field than on the court or field.
Basketball just helps me with everything on the football field, too. I mean, footwork, agility, speed, conditioning for sure. I just feel like I have that advantage on the football guys when I get back from basketball.
Baseball never really leaves. It's always around, so basketball is just kind of like another thing, but you know, it's pretty easy, it's pretty fun. They're both different sports.
The Pioneers haven't advanced to the Division 6A state championship game since the 2013-2014 campaign. But this year could be different, with chemistry playing the vital role between the three athletes in the three different sports.
We actually mesh pretty well just because we all kind of have that same mindset, because I think regardless of what sport it is.
Pinnacle is undefeated in the 6A desert basketball standings and should be in contention for another sectional title. In North Phoenix, Noah Friedman, Cronkite News.
According to the school, nearly 50% of the Pinnacle boys basketball team players either play football or baseball as well.
For years, it's been known as the greatest show on grass, but the Waste Management Phoenix Open is constantly changing to keep up with its growing popularity. Cronkite News reporter Chris Cadeau is in Scottsdale for the event's opening day.
Record crowds have become synonymous with the Waste Management Phoenix Open. In each of the last 3 years, the tournament has set a new attendance record. Last year, more than 650,000 fans streamed through the gates at TPC Scottsdale. Tournament organizers are working hard to keep up with fan demand at an event known for its significant high-end offerings. This year's tournament officials focused on creating more for the average fan.
The idea was to have something for everyone coming out. If you're coming out with your friends or with your family, we wanted you to have a spot where you can watch some great golf and have a good time. To that end, we built close to 900 bleacher seats, 650 of them on the 17 hole, 250 on the 18 tee box. We expanded our very popular venue, El Rancho, on the 12th hole, which is open to anyone that has a GA ticket. We added a large bar or cantina. We created a new venue called Craft Beer House on the 7th hole. So the idea is to offer more amenities to our general admission ticket holders.
The focal point of the Phoenix Open continues to be the 16th hole. 16,000 fans surround the par 3, making it a one-of-a-kind golf experience for both spectators and the pros as they cheer and sometimes boo.
It's unique to golf. It's loud and crazy, and it's a hole that you're excited to get to and you can't wait to leave.
And with sunshine and highs in the low 80s forecast for the entire week, the loud and crazy may break yet another attendance mark. In Scottsdale, Chris Cadeau, Cronkite News.
The tournament's biggest day for attendance is usually on Saturday. In each of the last 2 years, more than 200,000 fans for the grounds of TPC Scottsdale.
Even though we're just wrapping up the NFL season, there could be controversy at the University of Phoenix Stadium in the fall. The Arizona Cardinals will host the Washington Redskins, but a new bill aims to prohibit the display of Native American slurs at publicly funded sports venues.
I'm not a mascot, and neither are any of the people behind you. You're not a mascot. I wouldn't bother to dehumanize you in that regard.
Today, the House of Representatives introduced House Bill 2499. This bill would prohibit Arizona's publicly funded sports venues, such as the University of Phoenix Stadium, from displaying or broadcasting team names and mascots deemed racially insensitive by any of the 22 Native American tribes located in Arizona.
But we challenge our lawmakers to hear this bill, not to just put it on the table and forget about it, but to hear this bill, put it through the committees, and let's have a frank discussion about life.
This bill comes on the heels of Monday's announcement that the Cleveland Indians, who will begin spring training in Goodyear in a couple of weeks, will remove the Chief Wahoo logo from its jerseys and caps beginning in the 2019 season. The organization said it was no longer appropriate for on-field use. However, to maintain its trademark, the team said it will continue to sell merchandise with Chief Wahoo on it.
Chief Wahoo is definitely one of the characters that is probably the most racist and cruel in terms of the imagery that it perpetuates. And so I applaud Cleveland in taking efforts to not include that caricature and that image. But they still have Indians as part of the name, and they will still profit from the trading and marketing of Chief Wahoo.
In order for us to heal, these types of symbols need to be abolished from our society.
Every time that I try to advocate a difference in this building or to the governor's office or anywhere else, we're an afterthought or not even a thought at all. And I would attribute it specifically to the fact that you continuously to get these corporations marketing over and over and over again that we're not even human.
Currently, there are 2 Arizona high schools located in Deshini's district. However, he went on to say that he's not going to change their mascots quite yet. He's going to start with the publicly funded sports venues because they're the ones profiting.
The Waste Management Phoenix Open is annually the most attended event on the PGA Tour. And this year, officials expect to shatter yet another attendance record, with nearly 1 million people expected over the course of this week. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Paley is here to explain some of the safety measures authorities are taking this year. Tyler?
Yeah, Nicole, it's all hands on deck for security at this year's Waste Management Phoenix Open. Authorities are looking to keep the peace, both on the ground and in the air. As the Waste Management Phoenix Open prepares for what could be a record-breaking crowd this weekend in Scottsdale, the challenge remains balancing a giant party with a golf tournament. And while tournament officials love the growing fan base, they remind partiers that there's still a sporting event going on.
I think most people know that they're a golf tournament, and obviously they're going to have a party, they're going to have a good time, but obviously they have to be respectful of other fans that are here to play and to watch some great golf.
To cut down on drunk driving, Scottsdale police are continuing their Know Your Limit initiative, offering free voluntary breathalyzer tests to everyone when they leave TPC Scottsdale.
The person will walk up to the tent and say, hey, I'd like to take the test. They'll tell the officer what they think their level might be. They'll take the test, and for the most part, they always underestimate where they're at.
A strategy that Hoster says is working, and it shows in the numbers.
We have noticed a decline in some of our DUIs because of the Know Your Limit details. So people are realizing, hey, this is not a good idea. I am drunk when I thought I wasn't drunk.
Hoster says authorities face new challenges at this event every year. This year, it's in the air. Scottsdale PD is partnering with 2 companies to help detect drones around the golf course, which he says pose safety threats.
The Waste Management Open is within 1 mile of the Scottsdale Airport, so it is illegal for someone to fly a drone in this area. And it's also dangerous for someone to fly a drone over a large crowd in case it drops, has a malfunction, something like that.
But back on the ground, fans are reminded there will be undercover officers and a DUI task force patrolling all weekend.
If you drive here, we ask people not to drink and drive. We ask people to get dropped off. We ask people to use Uber or Lyft or whatever.
Now, Hoster says hundreds of officers will be staffing this weekend's festivities in Scottsdale, so drunk drivers and drone flyers, beware. For now, live in downtown Phoenix, Tyler Paley, Cronkite News.
As you can imagine, a record crowd of 719,000 people at last week's Phoenix Open generated a lot of waste. Cronkite News reporter Josiah Destin got his hands dirty to find out how the tournament keeps that waste from ever making it to a landfill.
A stuffed gopher in a boat in the lake alongside the 18th hole at TPC Scottsdale helped the Waste Management Phoenix Open minimize waste over the weekend.
The green gopher is literally a gopher driving a speedboat. He zooms around the lake, and when the birds see him coming, they fly away. So that way they don't roost on the nest, and then we have another form of waste to deal with.
That green gopher represents just one of many efforts to limit the environmental impact of the largest golf tournament in the world, one that officials say diverts over 1 million pounds of waste each year and sends nothing to the landfill.
This is one of the best examples of sports and sustainability mingled together because they're doing it all. They're doing the back of house, they're doing the front of house and communicating with the fans, really demonstrating this.
About 5,000 pounds of recyclable or compostable items fit in these compactors. From there, they're then taken to a transfer station where they're reassorted to achieve that 100% diversion rate.
At the transfer station, we're literally pouring through every single piece of material and basically putting, sorting it into recycling versus composting versus, small percentage of waste energy.
According to Waste Management, more than 80% of signage was reused from last year's tournament. Materials like cups and plates were specialized months in advance to be compostable. Even water used in the kitchens found another use. It was put through a gray water system and wound up in the 1,400 portable toilets spread throughout the course. In Scottsdale, I'm Josiah Destin, Cronkite News.
Maricopa County Community Colleges will terminate its district-sponsored football programs at the 4 schools that currently have them: Scottsdale, Phoenix, Mesa, and Glendale. Monday's decision is drawing mixed reactions on both sides. But as I found out, one thing is clear. This was a decision that all parties wish never had to be made. This injury made Division I schools hesitant to offer Phil Aholt a scholarship to play football. Turning lemons into lemonade, Aholt instead played football at Scottsdale Community College. But now, the situation has become sour. Arizona's biggest community college district is terminating each of its football programs after the 2018 season.
There's a host of reasons that go along with this. The financial constraints that we face right now, the leveling off of enrollment at all of our colleges, as well as the lack of the zeroing out of state funding for capital improvements.
It's part of a national trend that has seen a decline in junior college football programs. Of the 530 programs in the National Junior College Athletic Association, just 65 field football teams. Here in the Valley, Hassan estimates it would take between $20 and $25 million over the next 3 to 5 years for football funding alone. Former Arizona State head coach Todd Graham heavily recruited out of community colleges and thinks the district's elimination of the programs sets a bad precedent.
I think it's a sad day because a lot of kids are going to miss out on a lot of opportunities that they've had in the past that they won't have moving forward.
And Aholt feels the looming situation is unfair to those wanting a chance at the junior college level.
4 community colleges all have close to 80 to 100 kids on them. That's 400 young men right there with not necessarily knowing what they're going to do post-high school.
Now, Hassan tells Cronkite News no other sports programs will be affected by this decision, and he could not speculate about whether or not football could return to MCCC in the future.
There has been Olympic-sized drama going into the games, from officials telling Russia to stay home to a massive sexual abuse scandal involving the team doctor for USA Gymnastics.
Our reporter Troy Lynch caught up with Anita de France, one of the 2 Americans on the International Olympic Committee's executive board, to find out how the IOC is handling it all.
The biggest headline right now is Larry Nassar and obviously the sex abuse scandal and all the women gymnasts who were testifying against him. What was your reaction when you first heard about that?
Oh, I felt sick to my stomach that some monster would be able to be there for so long, and to go undetected is just terrible. But one of the things we found is there was no direct way for us to look in and see what was going on. We would rely, and as a woman who's been a part of a team sport, we would really need the athletes to speak up. And it's so sad that it took so long.
In these upcoming Winter Olympic Games, North and South Korea, they're combining for some of their teams. What do you think the significance of that is?
I think it's wonderful. It's hard, I think, for us to understand how it is that 2 cultures who are so similar yet have this divided line, literally a line between North and South, and it's been that way for over a half a century now. And it just seems better if they work together. In Pyeongchang, they'll be marching in together, and even taking a step further, the Olympic hockey team, this time we mean women, will actually have some players from the North playing with the team from the South in one literally unified team.
Obviously, Russia hasn't been playing fair last couple of years, the last couple of games, because of all these doping scandals going on, and now they're not even going to be a part of the Pyeongchang Olympics.
No, we had to make it fair for the athletes who competed with integrity. And let me say that what we're saying to athletes of the world, if you're doped, don't even think about coming to the games. We have 10 years to figure it out. We announced, I think it was 3 years ago, actually it was prior to that, it was prior to the Sochi Games, that we would keep the samples, blood or urine, for 10 years, because in that period of time, it was likely that we would be able to figure out all of their tricks and be able to say, okay, this test is positive. We'll find out who that was, and we'll withdraw the medal or the standing.
France played a big part in helping bring the Olympics back to Los Angeles. In 2028, the Summer Games will return to the United States for the first time since 1996.
Arizona is on a bit of a championship hosting hiatus after an unprecedented 3-year run. Josiah Destin went to Avondale to find out what could prompt a return of these events.
Valley sports and business leaders gathered at ISM Raceway earlier this month, eyeing a return of championship sporting events to the desert.
We did a survey last year after all 4 of those major events that we had, and it was astounding. It was 90-some% of our residents who wanted to have these events back.
Arizona was home to the 2015 Super Bowl and Pro Bowl, 2016 College Football Playoff National Championship game, and the 2017 Men's Basketball Final Four. The earliest those events could return is 2023. The Super Bowl and Final Four are committed through 2022, and the next available College Football Championship game is in 2025. But the Fiesta Bowl stages a big-time college football event at the end of every season, giving the Valley a chance to provide an annual reminder of how it can shine in the national spotlight.
Hospitality is extremely important to teams. We continue to demonstrate that through the Fiesta Bowl and Cactus Bowl, and we continue to work very closely with CFP so that they know us individually.
It's the retractable roof covering this venue that makes it the only facility west of Texas to host the Super Bowl, College Football Playoff National Championship game, and the Final Four. But new stadiums under construction in Los Angeles and Las Vegas create serious competition.
There's lots of other places with great golf courses and nice hotels and nice weather that are going to be competing for these events.
While it's no championship contest, the College Football Playoff semifinals return to Glendale in 2020. In Avondale, Josiah Destin, Cronkite News.
ASU's W.P. Carey School of Business found the Super Bowl, Pro Bowl, National Championship game, and Final Four generated more than $1 billion in economic impact.
The state of Arizona is taking a stance in a big case on sports gambling. When New Jersey tried to authorize sports gambling in 2014, the NCAA sued to block the law and won. As reporter Ariana Bustos tells us, that case has now been appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Illegal sports betting has been around for a while, and it will be. Another thing that didn't change are the basic philosophical arguments for and against whether we should have legalized sports betting in our state.
But Mike Bailey said as long as it's around, states' rights should trump federal regulation.
Look, it's happening, just like with any of these things. It's happening. It's dangerous. As long as it's happening, we can regulate it. We can make a little money for the state and get there.
He was speaking at a National Association of Attorneys General conference, which Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich could not attend today. Brnovich joined 20 other states who filed a brief in support of New Jersey, which wants state-regulated sports betting, a plan the Supreme Court is currently considering. Mississippi Attorney General Jim Hood, who is also a part of the brief, said it's not a partisan issue.
All of us Republicans and Democrats agree upon as states' rights, and that the states should make decisions, particularly with issues like gaming within our states, instead of Congress trying to dictate to the states what we can and cannot do.
He said states like Arizona should look forward to state-sponsored sports betting soon.
If you're in one of those states, you better get ready, because your lawyers are going to be busy trying to establish a regulatory scheme for sports betting.
Reporting from Washington, Ariana Bustos, Cronkite News.
Millions of golf balls are lost on the course each year, but that isn't always the end of this story.
Reporter Grayson Choi dives into the process of retrieving and recycling these missing golf balls.
Lee Ivanko's Valley-based companies help turn the misfortune of some golfers into an opportunity for others.
We've been in this business now for 30 years. We love the business and we love being in the Valley. We've expanded into 20 other states. We pull in about 10 million balls a year.
Ivanko owns Desert Golf, which collects lost golf balls, and Sunshine Golf, which sorts and sells those balls. It is estimated by the Danish Golf Union that approximately 300 million golf balls in the United States are lost each year. To keep lakes clean and disturbances at a minimum, Ivanko hires divers like John Waynon to retrieve balls hit into lakes. Waynon said he often spends several hours searching for balls underwater, the first step towards recycling them for extended use.
I collect the golf balls into a mesh bag that I have strapped to me through a PVC tee. And so basically you just kind of go through the mud, waving your hands around, and you go by feel a lot of times.
To put in perspective how many golf balls are found, divers can actually find 200 to 300 golf balls in a single lake.
We do the lake ball retrieval. Not every ball is a usable ball.
After divers collect the balls, they are transferred to a processing plant where they are sorted, graded, and processed for wholesale purchase globally. With reports suggesting that 100 million golf balls are recovered annually, businesses like Sunshine Golf and Desert Golf are changing the life expectancy of all those mishit golf balls. In Mesa, Grayson Choi, Cronkite News.
Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Cronkite News. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.